Drugs, counterfeit $100 bills, arms deals, billion-dollar cyber heists. These are not the operations of a cartel. They are allegedly the revenue streams of a sovereign nation. North Korea has been accused of building a secret crime empire, unlike anything in modern history, reportedly channeled through a clandestine office called Room 39. For decades, this illicit network has allegedly helped the world's most sanctioned regime finance nuclear weapons in plain defiance of the international order. But how much of it was deliberate state design and how much was sheer desperation? To explain how a state manages such operations, scholars Paul Rexton-Kahn and Bruce Bechtel developed the concept of criminal sovereignty. This framework describes a system where a government systematically uses its sovereign immunities and state machinery to execute illegal trade. Instead of opportunistic crimes by local officials, these operations function as a deliberate, centralized strategy for national survival. The alleged portfolio is vast, spanning the smuggling of illicit drugs, counterfeit US dollars and Chinese yuan, human trafficking, conventional arms, and wildlife products. Researchers argue that North Korea uses its embassies, shipping fleets, and state banks to protect and expand these networks. The hard currency generated from these operations serves three primary functions: financing nuclear and conventional weapons programs, sustaining the lifestyles of the ruling elite, and stabilizing a heavily sanctioned domestic economy. By integrating criminal enterprises directly into state policy, the regime turns its sovereign status into a shield, creating a highly resilient financial network that operates entirely outside the boundaries of international law. This centralized model of state-directed crime faces intense academic scrutiny. The structural collapse of North Korea's state-run economy in the mid-1990s, particularly the breakdown of the public distribution system, forced local officials and ordinary citizens to develop their own survival networks. This systemic failure triggered the rapid growth of informal black markets, creating a fragmented economic environment where the lines between state authorization and private enterprise blurred. Scholars like Hazel Smith argue that many prominent allegations of state-sponsored crime rest on weak empirical foundations, relying heavily on defector testimonies that are difficult to verify, while yielding few actual criminal convictions. Similarly, historian Andrei Lankov suggests that the financial gains from these illicit activities are often marginal. In this view, much of the trade represents opportunistic, localized survival mechanisms by regional actors rather than a grand, top-down design managed by the central leadership. This leaves investigators with a fundamental question: is the illicit trade a highly coordinated weapon of the state, or is it simply the chaotic byproduct of a collapsing economy trying to keep itself alive? At the center of this shadow system lies a highly secretive party organization known as Room 39. Established within the Workers' Party of Korea, its reported mission is to manage the supreme leader's private foreign currency slush fund. Unlike standard state agencies, Room 39 allegedly transforms sovereign secrecy into hard, usable currency. Outside observers claim the office coordinates a vast network of state-sanctioned illicit activities, from manufacturing counterfeit currency and narcotics to managing overseas shell companies, while the military operates its own parallel trade divisions. By operating through legal cover entities like Korea Daesung Bank, the Bureau attempts to mask the true origin of its money, turning sovereign protections into financial tools. Because the department operates in near total isolation, its actual scale is impossible to audit independently. Still, intelligence reports and defector accounts offer a glimpse of its potential reach. In 2010, the office was reported to control 17 overseas branch offices, alongside roughly 100 trading companies and banks. One widely cited estimate from 2009 suggested Room 39 managed upward of $5 billion in assets, with funds quietly distributed across accounts in Macau, Hong Kong, and Europe. This sprawling architecture acts as a key financial buffer for the regime. Yet scholars urge caution with these figures. Without access to audited bank records or internal ledgers, the exact wealth of Room 39 remains one of the most closely guarded secrets in international finance. In August 2014, reports surfaced that Yoon Tae-hyung, a regional manager for Korea Daesung Bank in Nakodka, Russia, had disappeared with $5 million in cash. While analysts debated his exact seniority, the incident provided a rare look at the liquid capital handled by remote representatives. In July 2015, the European Union sanctioned the Korea National Insurance Corporation, or KNOIC, citing its direct ties to Room 39. The insurer reportedly held £787 million in assets, maintaining outposts in Hamburg and London to access international markets. According to European regulators, these outposts facilitated elaborate insurance, property, and foreign exchange fraud, laundering the proceeds through legitimate commercial cover. In April 2017, the British government froze a KNOIC property in Blackheath, London, showing how deeply these shadow operations had penetrated Western cities. Investigators claim these insurance schemes operated by staging fictitious maritime losses and claiming high-value payouts from global reinsurance markets, turning international risk-sharing into a direct source of hard currency. This network stretched far beyond Western capitals and official state entities, embedding itself within expatriate communities. In Japan, authorities have focused heavily on the General Association of Korean Residents, or Chosen Soren. Though officially a cultural and civic organization representing the Korean diaspora, Tokyo accuses the association of operating as a direct financial and intelligence pipeline for Pyongyang. Investigators allege the group coordinates community donations, organizes charity drives, and occasionally links with smuggling operations to bypass traditional banking controls. This structure demonstrates how the regime could secure funding through community routes entirely outside formal state offices. In April 2019, a United Nations panel of experts detailed how North Korea bypassed international restrictions on coal exports and oil imports. The strategy targeted the digital and legal footprint of the cargo, rather than the physical commodity itself. At sea, this began with falsified documents. Operators used fake certificates of origin and altered cargo manifests to present North Korean coal as Russian or Chinese. Once the paper trail was obscured, vessels executed covert ship-to-ship transfers in international waters. By pulling alongside foreign-registered ships in deep water, crew members transferred thousands of tons of bulk cargo far from port authorities. To prevent tracking, vessels frequently turned off their automatic identification system transponders, leaving vast blackouts in public maritime databases. Through this combination of administrative deception and physical transfers, the regime maintained a steady flow of forbidden goods, exploiting the jurisdictional gray zones of the high seas. In April 2018, Indonesian maritime authorities intercepted the Wise Honest, a massive 17,061-ton bulk carrier, as it traveled through the waters of the archipelago. Inside its holds lay 25,000 tons of coal, valued at approximately $3 million. While international sanctions strictly prohibited North Korea from exporting coal, the ship's cargo manifest presented a different story, claiming the shipment originated in Russia. This administrative deception quickly unraveled upon inspection. The vessel, North Korea's second-largest bulk carrier, was officially registered to a shell company. However, investigators traced its ultimate beneficial ownership directly back to the Korean People's Army. The ship had been operating as a critical physical link in the regime's illicit maritime supply chain, relying on falsified bills of lading, deactivated tracking transponders, and maritime blind spots to transport commodities under the radar. Following its detention in Indonesia, the United States Department of Justice intervened. In May 2019, American federal prosecutors launched a civil forfeiture action, asserting that the ship's operations violated federal law and international treaties. U.S. authorities took custody of the carrier that same month. By October 2019, a federal district court finalized the forfeiture, ordering the vessel to be sold. This marked the first successful U.S. seizure of a North Korean-flagged cargo ship, proving that even the most elusive maritime networks leave a traceable physical footprint. As international pressure tightened around physical borders, investigators observed a change in how the regime allegedly secured funding and disrupted its adversaries. Analysts claim Pyongyang assembled an army of military hackers to operate in the digital space, targeting both sensitive files and global financial networks. This digital apparatus drew global attention in 2014 with the destructive cyber attack on Sony Pictures. The FBI publicly accused the North Korean government of central involvement, pointing to a state-sponsored hacking collective known as the Lazarus Group. While some independent cybersecurity analysts debated the direct attribution, the incident demonstrated the disruptive potential of these virtual operations. The focus quickly expanded to direct financial theft. In 2015, researchers linked the Lazarus Group to a $12 million digital heist from Banco del Austro in Ecuador, followed by an attempted theft from Tiên Phong Bank in Vietnam. Similar digital intrusions soon targeted banks in Poland and Mexico. These early operations bypassed traditional border security, proving that lines of code could acquire hard currency just as effectively as physical smuggling. In February 2016, hackers targeted the Central Bank of Bangladesh, attempting to drain nearly $1 billion from its account at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. While the bank blocked most of the transactions, the attackers successfully routed $81 million through the SWIFT network into accounts in the Philippines, where the funds quickly disappeared. By the following year, the target profile shifted again. In October 2017, hackers compromised the Far Eastern International Bank of Taiwan. Though initial reports flagged a potential loss of $60 million, international cooperation allowed the bank to recover almost the entire sum, leaving the actual loss at under $500,000. These operations revealed a broader pattern. While individual heists yielded fluctuating returns, the aggregate scale of the threat was expanding. Industry analysts began to suggest that digital theft had eclipsed traditional state industries like arms sales. A 2018 report by FireEye and Bloomberg estimated that between 2014 and 2018, North Korean-aligned groups attempted to steal at least $1.1 billion from financial institutions globally. By 2019, a United Nations panel of experts estimated that the regime had raised up to $2 billion through these coordinated cyber operations. The strategy adapted to the rise of decentralized finance. Rather than breaching the heavily guarded systems of traditional central banks, state-linked hacker groups increasingly targeted cryptocurrency exchanges. This shift culminated in massive losses. According to blockchain analytics reports, North Korean cyber actors stole more than $1.3 billion in cryptocurrency in 2024 alone. Security firms estimate this figure represented approximately 2/3 of all global cryptocurrency thefts that year, showing how digital extraction has scaled from targeted bank heists into a highly industrialized revenue stream. The roots of the regime's illicit trade trace back to the physical world of the 1970s, long before the rise of digital operations. Intelligence reports and defector testimonies suggest that during this decade, the government began cultivating, manufacturing, and trafficking illegal narcotics. Initial production reportedly began in the mountainous northern territories of Hamgyong and Ryanggang provinces. According to these accounts, President Kim Il-sung personally sanctioned an opium farm in Yeonsa County, establishing a state-run agricultural network dedicated to drug cultivation to generate foreign currency. This system changed during the devastating famine of the mid-1990s, when survival pressures escalated. Former agricultural worker Yoon Yong-sol later reported that local state farms were directed to plant poppies instead of food crops. The economic calculus was clear. The resulting opium could be sold on foreign black markets for significantly more money than the grain they could have grown, providing liquid cash to purchase resources for the state elite while ordinary citizens starved. By the late 1990s, the trade adapted to include synthetic drugs, particularly methamphetamine. As the formal domestic economy and healthcare systems collapsed, local chemical factories began producing synthetic stimulants. Within North Korea, where medicine was almost entirely unavailable, citizens reportedly began using methamphetamine as a substitute for scarce pharmaceutical drugs, treating it as a remedy for fatigue, hunger, and illness. Because these historical details rely almost exclusively on defector recollections from highly isolated provinces, the precise degree of direct state command during this era remains difficult to independently verify. The movement of these narcotics outward to international markets reportedly relied on specialized cover institutions like the Ryugyong Corporation. Operating under the Workers' Party Foreign Relations Department, this entity served as a commercial front. It reportedly controlled agricultural land for opium cultivation and managed direct hard currency transfers to the leadership. By the mid-2000s, however, as opium production fell, a major transition occurred. Investigators claim that state-run laboratories transitioned to manufacturing high-purity methamphetamine, directly supplying foreign illicit markets instead of relying on traditional agricultural crops. Reconstructing this trade requires confronting intelligence blind spots. Journalist Isaac Stone Fish notes that external knowledge of North Korea's internal operations is highly restricted, meaning much of the public record remains provisional and open to interpretation. Nonetheless, regional partners eventually began documenting a clear physical flow across their borders. In 2004, China officially acknowledged the scale of the issue, identifying Jilin province as a major transshipment hub for drugs crossing the Tumen River. From these border entry points, the reported reach of the trade extended globally, with law enforcement identifying trafficking links to the Philippines, Hong Kong, Thailand, Western Africa, and the United States. This vast network shows how the regime's early smuggling operations laid the groundwork for decades of economic survival, even as the true scale of central state control remains permanently obscured behind the borders of a closed nation. As global finance digitizes, the line between state-directed crime and decentralized survival blurs. The real question is no longer just about regime control, but how these highly adaptive networks exploit our interconnected world to endure. This shadow system is no longer just an isolated survival strategy. It is a global vulnerability. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments below.